Hey Tony, it's Friday. And first off, to answer your question of the week, yes, there has been a game that I've been playing a lot lately. The game that just came out on early access, Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord. Now, you know how much I enjoy the original Mountain Blade, or not the original, but you know how much I enjoy Mountain Blade Warband. So the sequel finally came out on early access. And naturally, I started playing it the moment it came out, because I've been waiting for this game for 8 years. So Mountain Blade Warband is one of my favorite games. It's not my favorite by any stretch of the imagination, but it's definitely the one I've put the most time in on. And because it's the ultimate medieval sandbox. You can play whatever character you want, and you can play it however you'd like. So to kind of go a little back on what the Mountain Blade series is, combine an action RPG with a real-time strategy game with settlement management, and you have Mountain Blade Warband, or you have the Mountain Blade series. There are technically 4 games in the series, and there are also a million and one different mods for the entire game. But all of the games themselves are vastly different, and a lot of those games themselves have DLCs and different aspects to them. So the very first one that came out roughly 12 years ago was the original Mountain Blade. And it was a real kind of bare bones type game. And then Tailworlds came out with, it's not the sequel, but kind of the expanded version known as Mountain Blade Warband. And Warband is one of the most played games on Steam and has a pretty sizable community for the game itself. Um, During Warband's run, Tailworlds, the developer, came out with 2 DLCs. One of which was called Viking Conquest, another which was called Napoleonic Wars. Now, Napoleonic Wars took place in, you guessed it, the Napoleonic Wars, and it was a only online multiplayer game in which you basically you play as a non-distinct soldier during the Napoleonic era, and you go online, play in different servers, and kind of go from there. It had a huge community. It had a very large guild community, or clan community, however you want to put it. It's called regiments. And the regiments would have like big events they'd go to each week where you'd have your entire group go in there, sit in line, pretend you were in the Napoleonic Wars for a little while. I was part of a regiment for a long time. It was a good time. It was pretty fun. I made a lot of good friends who I'm still friends with today through my time on Napoleonic Wars. And then Viking Conquest was more of a single player game in which it takes place during the Viking invasion of Great Britain during the Dark Ages. Which it when it first came out, it was kind of buggy, but it was made by a team who worked on the mod called Brittenwalda, which Viking Conquest was just Vittenwalda. Oh, sorry, Brittenwalda, the DLC form with a full single player campaign that was actually story based, which is really cool. But the one that I played the most of was definitely original Mountain Blade Warband, in which and the multitude of mods that came with it. Like I played a Star Wars mod for a long time. I played a Game of Thrones mod for a really long time, and other also like Warhammer Fantasy mod. They had that because almost anything you'd ever want, there was a mod for it, and it was all really fun. And Bannerlord was in development for 8 years. So you can bet as soon as that went on early access, it opened up at 6 a.m. our time on March 30th. I was up at 5:45 and I was downloading that game by 6:15 because I was so excited for it. Now it is definitely a buggy mess. It is certainly an early access game. It certainly has a lot of issues with it, but I'm still having a really good time with it. Um, so the storyline of Bannerlord is the continent the game takes place on is called Calradia. Our Calradia. I tend to call it Calradia because I like the way that sounds better than Calradia. But Calradia itself used to be run by an empire, the Calradic Empire. And Mountain Blade Warband takes place 200 years after Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord. So Bannerlord is the prequel to it, and you're playing at the fall of the Empire. And I think I've put about 16 hours on it. It unfortunately took me two different characters because my first character ended up, I hit a game breaking bug and it made it really hard for me to keep playing because it destroyed my save game and destroyed that character. So I just kind of said whatever and made a new one who I'm still trying to decide how I want to play him. There are essentially two different options for the main quest. You can save the empire or you can destroy it. Now the character I'm playing right now is essentially he's a Norman, in which meaning the Normans as the kingdom that took over Great Britain in the 1000s. Um, and so I'm playing him. His name is William right now, and you make your clan name as well. Originally, I started out with Godwinson, who is named after the last English king before the Normans invaded, named Harold Godwinson. But I've kind of gone back and forth between whether I want to save the empire or destroy it. And I think I'm gonna end up going to join the Empire, so I'll end up probably changing my clan name to something a little more reminiscent of the Empire. I'm kind of trying to recreate one of my favorite individuals from Roman history. One of my favorites, one of the more interesting characters from Roman history, named Stilicho, who was really Rome's last great general who tried his best to save the Western Roman Empire from collapsing. And so I'm kind of debating on playing with that because he himself, Stilicho, was a Vandal. The Vandals were a nomadic group who invaded from Scandinavia and kind of went south and eventually took over North Africa until they eventually died out. So I'm kind of trying to play. I'm playing with that idea a little bit because the Normans themselves were descendants of Vikings and Frenchmen. So I'm kind of trying to do that, but we'll see what ends up happening. But it's been a pretty good game so far. It's been really fun. I can tell that I've been waiting a long time for it because I'm willing to look over a lot of the shortcomings of it because it's definitely an early access game. It doesn't run well, it's not well optimized, it's really buggy, but I'm still having a really good time with it. And I think I got it on the 15th. I'm sorry, I got it on March 30th, and I think I probably put 15 hours on it or so. Now, it's during the quarantine, there's not a lot else to do, so I've been playing a lot of that. I've been playing a lot of Witcher 3, because I got that on the Switch, and Witcher 3 I think is probably my favorite game I ever made. I can never say enough good things about the Witcher series, particularly Witcher 3, which is just, in my honest opinion, one of the finest games ever made. It's truly just, it's an experience. I heavily recommend getting Witcher 3 if you don't have it already. Um, but I've also brought out Fallout 4 again, just because we ended up, one YouTuber that we watched who's done a full Fallout LP released his newest episode just the other day, which got us really excited for Fallout again. So I started playing more Fallout. I'm going with a Frank Castle Punisher build because the Punisher's backstory really kind of makes sense for the sole survivor's backstory within the within Fallout 4. So just kind of doing what I can to pass the time. So Tony, my question for you is, who is one of your favorite historical characters from the ancient world? Tony, I'll see you on Tuesday or Wednesday. Later, bro.